Hello, welcome to ITV News Central. On tonight's programme, the tears of an 87-year-old from Telford forced to wait 9 hours for an ambulance in the pouring rain.
That was completely avoidable and it should never have happened. And our NHS is failing people like Rita.
Also on the programme, why Welsh chickens might be polluting river water in Herefordshire.
Why now could be the perfect time to sell your car.
Halloween comes early to Tamworth with this haunted pirate ship.
And even though the weather has been unsettled in recent days, temperatures have still been pretty mild, but all change from tomorrow. Join me later for the full forecast.
Good evening. An 87-year-old great-grandmother from Telford was forced to wait 9 hours for an ambulance lying on her drive in the pouring rain after slipping over. Neighbours rallied round with umbrellas and blankets to try to protect Rita Tonks from the worst of the elements, but in camera phone footage she can be heard moaning in distress.
Her son said it was hugely upsetting seeing his mum in that state. And today, the local MP said she had been let down. Sarah Kilburn-Wilson reports.
87-year-old Rita Tonks cries out in pain. She slipped and fell on her own driveway in Telford, fracturing her hip. And she lay there for 9 hours in the pouring rain until the ambulance eventually reached her.
It was the conditions of which my mother was waiting outside on the driveway, in the cold, in the rain. We did whatever we could to keep her warm and dry. But obviously it was a highly stressful environment, seeing my mother in pain. We didn't know at that time that she'd fractured her hip. I think overall it was just very stressful and very disappointing that we had to wait nearly 9 hours.
Well, I think it's so wrong when a lady like Rita, who has been a major contributor to her community over many years, that she is treated like that for 9 hours in the pouring rain. The distress it caused her family, that was completely avoidable and it should never have happened. And our NHS is failing people like Rita.
Senior paramedics have warned today that these waiting times could become the norm, with hospital handovers taking far longer than they should.
Certainly we've been made aware in the West Midlands there are significant delays. We're currently day after day and high numbers of ambulances are waiting outside A&E waiting to offload their patients, and they can't go to the next patient if they can't offload. What's happening is that many emergency departments are full, as are the hospitals. So what's happening is the emergency department can't move patients out of emergency department into ward beds, so the patients are staying in emergency department for much longer.
West Midlands Ambulance Service has apologised for the delay in getting to Rita, saying local NHS services are under severe pressure. On the day of Rita's fall, it said just over 91% of handovers at Royal Shrewsbury Hospital were delayed, taking an average of 4 hours and 2 minutes. That's against a national target of 15 minutes. In a statement, a spokesperson said, "Our staff and volunteers are working tirelessly, but we would like to apologise for taking just under 9 hours to respond to an elderly patient who had fallen." Paramedics in our control room spoke to the caller with the patient on several occasions to check whether her condition had changed. The hospital trust itself said it too had been under what it called extreme pressure and said plans such as a £9.3 million extension of the emergency department would help ease the problems there. But the problems extend beyond Shropshire, and paramedics nationally are warning of a difficult winter ahead.
We're concerned that without some significant input and changes, we'll be in for a very difficult winter. And it's the patients ending up with a very poor deal. Emergency service staff on the ambulances as well as in the emergency departments are under significant pressure, and it's starting to take its toll.
Rita is out of hospital following a hip replacement operation on her fractured hip and is now recovering in a care home for around 6 weeks before being able to return back to her own home. Sarah Kilburn-Wilson, ITV News.
Next tonight, a murder investigation has begun after a man was found dead in Redditch. The man in his 60s was found at an address in Cropthorne Close just after 7:30 last night. 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder.
Meanwhile, detectives investigating a rape in Sutton Coldfield say they've reviewed nearly 800 hours of CCTV. The attack happened at the Princess Alice Park at around 10 p.m. on Sunday, the 3rd of October. Police say park staff have been tidying up and cutting back overgrowth to help people in the area feel safe.
Birmingham will not hit its flu vaccine targets this winter because of national shortages, according to the Health and Social Care Overview and Scrutiny Committee. They say the city is facing a shortfall of 130,000 doses. The University Hospitals Birmingham NHS Foundation Trust say they're waiting on how many additional doses they'll be allocated.
ITV News Central is taking part in a special investigation into the state of pollution along the River Wye. Now, it's a collaboration with ITV journalists specialising in environmental issues, working along the route of the river from its source in Wales, through the Midlands in Herefordshire, to the estuary down in Gloucestershire.
Well, campaigners think pollution could originate with intensive poultry farming in mid-Wales. In fact, a leading poultry supplier has recognised that the use of chicken litter, which is organic waste, on land in the Wye catchment was having an impact. Tonight, in the second part of our series, Rural Affairs correspondent Hannah Thomas examines this aspect of what's killing the Wye.
Their music and their message could not be any louder. Campaigners from across Wales and England have demonstrated against what they say is the death of the River Wye.
Stop polluting our rivers!
Angela Jones is a wild swimmer who's leading the call for action.
The Wye has been part of my life for decades. It's my office, it's my playground, but we have allowed it to die in front of our eyes through pollution, through poultry farming. So I decided to get a coffin and tow a coffin along the Wye and then bring it to the Senate, and then I'll be going up to London with the coffin, because if change doesn't come, we are going to lose our gorgeous, beautiful river.
This is the gorgeous, beautiful river she talks about. Here in the foothills of the Welsh mountains, the Wye looks swollen because of heavy autumn rain. But on the surface, at least, it looks far from polluted. The worry is, though, that what happens here could affect the quality of that water by the time it meanders its way through Herefordshire and Gloucestershire.
Campaigners believe that there could be up to 20 million chickens producing eggs or meat in mid-Wales alone, all producing tons of waste and manure as well. They fear that this eventually finds its way into the river and adds to pollution. Some are lobbying egg and poultry suppliers to help them address the issue.
We want them to behave responsibly. And what we're saying to them is, look, you are part of the problem. And therefore, you must be part of the solution. We are not here telling you not to eat eggs. Eggs are delicious. They're an incredibly important and affordable source of protein. But the reality is, chicken poo has 4 times the content of phosphate than any other animal manure. 4 times more than cows, 4 times more than sheep or pigs. The land cannot take in any more phosphate, and there is only one place it's going to end up, and that's in the river.
This is a row affecting producers not just in Wales, but also here in Herefordshire. A rapid growth in the number of intensive poultry farms in the last few years have seen it dubbed the poultry capital of Britain. Last year alone in the UK, we produced around 2 million tonnes of chicken meat, and a quarter of that was reared here in Herefordshire, in Shropshire and in Powys. And there are concerns about what the waste from those farms will mean for the River Wye.
There are 40,000 chickens in this shed in Powys. They're looked after by farmer Sharon Hammond. We can hear them, but we can't see them because of biosecurity reasons. Sharon supplies Avara Foods. They've recently accepted a level of responsibility for chicken manure pollution. But Sharon says there are checks and balances.
As an industry, we're very, very heavily regulated. So even before we can consider applying for planning permission to build poultry sheds, we have to seek a permit to do so from Natural Resources Wales in our case. And that permit has over 30 conditions to it that we have to comply with in terms of our emissions, and that is then all regulated after we get our permit and we get our planning permission and we put our sheds up. Everything is recorded and reported and inspected.
But there are questions around the surge in demand for intensive poultry farms in Gloucestershire as well. Between 2010 and 2017, there was a six-fold increase in the number of large egg and chicken producers across Gloucestershire and Somerset. And that rise, it's thought, is partly down to our appetite for low-cost meat.
Stella Owen is from the National Farmers Union. She agrees we're hungry customers, but says there are less than 10 million chickens in the whole of Wales. And she doesn't agree that those chickens are killing Britain's best river.
NFU Cymru has always said you have to deal with the scientific evidence. Now, if there is evidence coming forward, then farmers will work with anybody to help things get better. But until there is that evidence and until there is solid evidence, NRW said they could not attribute it to poultry farms. So it's very, very difficult for poultry farmers to be taking the rap all the time.
Whatever the reasons behind the wildlife catastrophe in the Wye, campaigners believe that time is running out to rescue the river, a river they want to revive and crown the nation's favourite once again. Hannah Thomas, ITV News.
It is 12 minutes past 6 and you're watching ITV News Central. Still to come on the programme. What you need to know for your recycling to actually make a difference.
Also coming up, the Front Garden pirate ship in Tamworth to celebrate Halloween.
And I'll be here with the weather. So some quieter conditions in the forecast, but it is going to be feeling much colder. Join me at the end of the programme for all the details.
And as always, the ITV Evening News is on after us. With the details, here's Mary Nightingale.
Coming up in the programme, we will have all the latest from the Health Secretary's press conference as concerns over COVID rise again. And it follows warnings from the NHS for serious winter crisis if stricter restrictions are not imposed. Also ahead, the Queen cancels a trip to Northern Ireland after doctors tell her to rest. And why the Justice Secretary was being driven around by a serving prisoner in an HGV. Do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Now, you might already know this if you're in the market for one, but there's been a huge rise in the price of used cars. It's down to a shortage of new cars as manufacturers recover from the coronavirus shutdown.
The advice is to hang on to buy if you can, but if you are selling, well, now could be the time. Catherine Walker has been to find out more.
For many of us, buying a car is a big decision with a big price tag. This used car dealership in West Bromwich say they've seen a surge in the number of customers looking to get behind the wheel.
Obviously, there's a big demand for the brand new cars, so waiting list is quite long. So obviously people do need a car and they jump on second-hand market.
So what does that mean for the industry? Well, an increase in demand coupled with a shortage of supply for brand new vehicles means the cost of buying a second-hand car like this is rising. In fact, new figures show the cost of buying a used car has increased by 21.4% year on year. In September 2020, a used car cost an average of £13,800. By September 2021, that had risen to over £16,000.
So used car prices have been consistently increasing now for over 2 years. Every month it feels like we break a new record in terms of that year-on-year increase. And at the moment there's nothing we're seeing in the market data that suggests that pricing growth is going to reset. So it really is an unprecedented market.
That uncertainty is hitting customers in the pocket. After having a baby, Ruth needed to upgrade to a bigger family car. But her new set of wheels came with a bigger price tag than she was expecting.
We were sort of looking to spend quite a sort of small budget of £2,500 on a car. We're sort of hoping to kind of get something maybe 2011, 2012, so it's still fairly old. But just with the price increases, we realised actually we need to increase that. So we paid just over £3,000 for a car that's a 2010, so actually slightly older.
Experts say if you can afford to be patient, buying a used car could be cheaper in the future.
Usually we tend to see a steep decline in the value of a car as soon as you drive off the forecourt, but that seems not to be the case anymore. What we're seeing is it's now become a seller's market. So the car that you have today, which you bought last year, may be worth actually more than what you paid for it. So you could probably sell that back to your dealer and make a profit.
With new car production still recovering from the coronavirus shutdown, there's a long road ahead until the used car market returns to normal. For now, it's bumper profits for those looking to sell. Catherine Walker, ITV News.
Now, over the last few weeks, ITV weather presenter Alex Beresford has been looking at some simple changes we can make to help save the planet.
Well, tonight he learned some tricks to make sure our recycling efforts actually pay off.
Now, how many of us have bought a bottle of water on our lunch break or bought milk in the supermarket? Believe it or not, plastic production is expected to more than double over the next 20 years. So how we recycle it is going to become more vital than ever. So I've come here to find out how important it is that we're doing it right.
And this is where it starts. Thousands upon thousands of used plastics making their way along the conveyor belt. Once sorted, they're crushed, ready for the next part of their life. In 2020, nearly 2.5 million tonnes of plastic packaging waste was collected across the UK, with just under half of that recycled. Latest available figures show that in July, regen waste picked up around 194 tonnes of plastic from households on behalf of Stoke-on-Trent City Council. In the 12 months between August of last year and July of this, collections added up to nearly 2,200 tonnes.
And of course, our rubbish isn't just made up of plastic. There are mountains of other household items like glass, cardboard and paper. And what I didn't know is how we recycle those items really matters.
If your recycling is contaminated, which is when you might have food in there or flimsy plastic in with the rest of your plastic that can be recycled, then when it's baled up, that bale might contain too many of the wrong things and the whole bale might be rejected.
Tell me the best way to recycle cardboard, because I understand that if it gets wet, it can be a bit more tricky.
Cardboard should be flattened or folded up with all of the tape or any plastic labels taken off of it. And you should keep it as dry as possible. It's much harder to process it for recycling if it's damp when you put it in the box or if it gets left out in the rain.
Now here's something I've only just found out about, and that's some of our major supermarkets are now accepting soft plastic recycling. So that's anything from crisp packets to bread bags and also the lids from ready meals. So here's my contribution.
Paula Chin spent more than 20 years working in the packaging industry. She now campaigns for resources to be used more efficiently.
Plastic is everywhere. It's been found in the highest mountains and the deepest parts of the ocean. It's in the air we breathe. It's been found in water that we drink. It is one of the most visible symptoms of the environmental crisis that we're facing right now. So whether it be plastics, whether it be paper, aluminium, in the broader picture, we have to think about our overall resource consumption and make sure we're tackling our throwaway culture.
So I've learnt quite a lot today. I can recycle my dog's food pouches, my son's crisp packets, and I need to double check the weather forecast before I put out my cardboard waste. All small things that can add up to a big change.
Tell you what's interesting is you kind of think you know all this stuff, but sometimes it's good to have a little bit of a reset about whether you're doing it properly, separating things, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I like the way he says he's got to double check the weather forecast.
Yeah, surely he should know.
Like you don't know, Alex, yeah. Anyway, if you do want to find out more about some of the small changes you can make, then go to our website, itv.com/central. And in Alex's final piece next week, he'll be looking at the impact our diet is having on the planet.
Now, time to talk to a man who's truly gone to town with his Halloween celebrations.
Yes, he's a week early, but when you built a pirate ship like the one you're about to see, well, you would want to show it off. So let's speak to Andy CARVEL now. Andy, nice to have you with us. I thought you would dress up for the occasion, but what you're wearing will do. So tell us about the pirate ship, why you built it.
Well, just to give everyone a laugh, really, and we have a bit of a party on Halloween, so there's a bit of a pirate theme. It's just a bit of fun for everybody.
Just give us an idea of how long it took. Was there a plan? Have you done it before, Andy?
Not really, no. I just started it in the back garden and then brought it round to the front after I'd built it, took it back to bits, put it round the front, and it took about 2 weeks, really.
Well, throughout the pandemic, Andy, we've been hearing about a shortage of building materials, and that clearly hasn't happened in your household. What's it made of?
It's all scrap, it's old fence, it's bits of pallets, cardboard tubes, anything I could find, really, I've been collecting up.
When you say old fence, Andy, did you get it from the neighbours, or is the relationship all still good? The neighbours like it, yes?
Oh yeah, yes, I'm still out, still get on with the neighbours.
Now, tell us about why you're doing it, Andy, because I know you are raising money for charity, aren't you?
Yeah, well, it was just done just for the party and to give everyone a laugh in the start, but next door runs Tamworth Pantry, so we say if anyone wants to make a donation, then they can make it to Tamworth Pantry, who do a food bank in Tamworth.
It's just brilliant, and also just to give people a bit of a laugh. I think more than ever we all like just a little bit of a smile at the minute, Andy.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of traffic stopping to have a look at it.
Well, Halloween is huge, isn't it? And people love dressing up, they love buying all the stuff to go with Halloween. What's been the reaction from the neighbours and indeed the younger generation, the kids around the neighbourhood? What have they been saying?
Oh yeah, they love it. They're always stopping, having a look, because they go past here to go to school, and all the little kids are always looking and shouting and trying to get on it.
2 quick questions. If you check, you can get your car out, first of all.
Yeah, I've just about left room for that.
Superb.
Or I can leave it over the neighbours, they're quite good.
And have you considered adding water cannon? Because I think that would really put the icing on the cake.
There's enough water about as it is. I've got smoke machines and lights on it, but for Halloween.
Well, listen, Andy, we wish you all the best for Halloween and indeed the run-up to it. I know I can see it's going to be really, really popular. Well done you. It is quite amazing to see. And we look forward to next year's offering.
Right, OK, thanks.
Superb. Brilliant. Right, let's get a check on the weather forecast with the details. Here's Amanda.
Making the most of it, whatever the weather. Octopus Energy sponsors ITV Central Weather.
Hello again. Well, it's certainly been rather unsettled in recent days, but temperatures have been feeling rather mild for October. However, all change from tomorrow. It's certainly going to be feeling much fresher across the region, but on the plus side, hopefully we'll get to see more in the way of sunshine, give or take the odd shower at times. So today across the UK we still had that warm air holding on, temperatures up to around 18 degrees in southern areas, but you can see colder air is going to sink its way southwards as we go through tonight and into tomorrow. It's going to draw in a more northerly airflow, which means it's going to feel much colder. In fact, for some areas temperatures may fall below average for the time of year. Now in the meantime, for the rest of tonight, well, it's fairly quiet out there. There may be a few showers around, but for most of us it will be largely dry. And then overnight we've got this system sinking its way southwards, bringing a little bit more cloud and a few splashes of light rain. But for most of us it will be dry out there, clearer skies forming behind that system, and that's what's going to bring the colder air. So maybe a little bit of cloud around first thing tomorrow morning, but it won't be long before it brightens up, and for many it's a sunny start up there, albeit a little on the chilly side. May just see the odd shower blowing in during the afternoon, but for most of us it's going to be fine and dry on Thursday. But the winds coming in from a more northerly direction mean temperatures fresher than today. Highs there generally between 10 and 13 degrees. And then looking further ahead, well, once again a fairly fresh day on Friday, but for most of us it will be largely dry out there. And then as we go through the weekend, it looks like temperatures will start to become more milder again, but it does bring some unsettled conditions on Sunday. Bye bye.
Octopus Energy sponsors ITV Central weather.
Keen-eyed viewers in the East Midlands might have noticed you saw the weather forecast for the West Midlands. If you tune into our late bulletin, you will get the very latest forecast. A slight technical issue there. Apologies.
Yeah, it's not great wherever you are, sadly.
No, rubbish.
So, hey. Anyway, to finish off now this evening, let's take a look at this lovely video which we've been sent today. Long line of swans, 13 of them have been filmed for a relaxing paddle, but it wasn't without incident. They're confronted by a tunnel and they manage to negotiate one by one by ducking down, and they get through. So there you go.
Very resourceful. That's it from us. ITV Evening News is next. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.